I wake up in a panic, mind grasping to remember why. Then instantly I wish I could forget again. Pretend it isn't real. But it is. And I'm still alive, even if I don't look like it. Today on the Comic Book Report, The Amazing Spider-Man Beyond Omnibus. Stick around and check it out. Greetings, webheads. My name is Dominic, and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today, I can't wait to talk about a Marvel Omnibus I recently finished up. I know I've teased it a few times on the channel already. Yes, we are finally going to be talking about the Spider-Man Beyond Omnibus. This is a modern Amazing Spider-Man run that I don't feel like gets enough credit, and I hope to do it justice today. Before we jump into today's review though, I would just like to shout out the channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can actually find a link for them in the video's description, and if you see anything there you like, you can actually use my discount code at checkout, The Comic Book Report, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's go ahead and get started with today's Omnibus review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by Zeb Wells, Kelly Thompson, Jed MacKay, Saladin Ahmed, and more, and penciled by Patrick Gleason, Travel Foreman, Sarah Pichelli, Mark Bagley, and more. The issues in this collection were published by Marvel Comics beginning in 2021. As far as what this omnibus collects, it includes Amazing Spider-Man, the 2018 series, issues 75 through 93, 78 Bay, 80 Bay, 88 Bay, 92 Bay, Mary Jane and Black Cat Beyond, and material from Amazing Spider-Man, the 2018 series, issue 74, and Free Comic Book Day 2021, Spider-Man Venom. And finally, this is an oversized hardcover edition with glossy print paper stock, what appears to be a sewn binding, and 672 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first dedicated look at today's omnibus front cover. I should say right from the jump, this is one of the direct market covers for this omnibus. There are actually 3 cover options for this particular release. We have this direct market cover along with the standard edition cover, which I'll throw up a thumbnail for, as well as a second direct market cover. I'll try to throw up a thumbnail for that as well, just to give you an idea of some of the options out there. For me, this direct market cover is far and away the best cover, but there are some fun ones certainly for this collection. The spine design for Beyond as well I thought was really striking. I like that we have the Beyond kind of company logo stylized, always fun to see, and we have this kind of confused looking Spider-Man profile headshot on the bottom corner, which is fun. I do believe the different covers might have a different bottom image as well, which should be noted. As we begin to make our way to the back cover of this omnibus, we have a really striking image of the Ben Reilly Spider-Man, and we confirm there in the blurb, yes, Ben Reilly is back. We have not only the blurb about the collection, but a bunch of the creators, what it includes, pricing information, and things like that. Overall, I do like the cover art design, kind of dust jacket design for this release. I think it was pretty strong, especially that front cover for this direct market edition. I really, really like it. And speaking of the dust jacket, I did want to spend one more minute examining this dust jacket. I'll show you the interior flaps this time, spread it all out so you can see everything at a glance. After that, I will transition to the under the dust jacket artwork for this collection as well. But yeah, again, this dust jacket I just thought was a really, really great design. I think the kind of curious looking Spider-Man face in the bottom is even fun too for this direct market cover. But yeah, that image with Kraven and Spider-Man is just really chilling and interesting, I thought. But yeah, as we make our way to the Under the Dust Jacket hardcover printed art, I do like this as well. I think the image they got is awesome. We have the title, Amazing Spider-Man Beyond Omnibus, along with this creepy kind of green image with all of these kind of fallen Spider-Man images or times in his history, like Spider-Man No More, and this chilling no-face design. The back, we have Ben Reilly's face, and everything kind of makes this beautiful wrap-around image spread across the hardback book. Again, a really, really striking tribute to Spider-Man, and I just thought it was really, really cool. Okay, and now I wanted to show all the prospective collectors out there a quick look at the binding. So I see some things in the bottom of my binding. I'm not sure if it's a little bit of glue. I still believe this might be a sewn bound book, however. Someone in the comments correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think this is still sewn binding. But my copy laid out really nicely. I have no complaints whatsoever on this binding. Very little gutter loss. Again, really good stuff. Okay, now that we've checked that out and we've gone over the build of the book, we can go ahead and transition to the book proper. So excited to talk about it today. As we open up this omnibus collection, we have some beautiful blue end pages and a really, really striking title page with Spider-Man. Love to see it. We have a double page spread that has our full kind of creator breakdown and kind of what issues are mapped in this collection. This is really what we have in lieu of a table of contents. We also have some publication information. And then we jump right into the first issue in today's omnibus. As you can see, we kick off with issue 75 of The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, this is the numbering that takes place everything right after the Nick Spencer run on Amazing Spider-Man. If you don't know, Nick Spencer had 2 omnibus editions that collected his entire run. I believe those might still be in print. You might want to look for it in case that's not the case anymore. And funny enough, they actually released this Beyond Omnibus between their releases of Volume 1 and 2 of the Spencer run. So chronologically, they did release these collections out of order. Consequently, I did buy Beyond before I got the Volume 2 of Spencer's, just because I didn't want to lose out on this collection in case by chance this was out of print by the time Volume 2 of Spencer's got released. Because of kind of the weird jumble here, I actually haven't finished Spencer's run on Spider-Man, but I did go ahead and start picking this one up, and now I've read and completed this omnibus before finishing the Nick Spencer run, and I will say this omnibus reads pretty well self-contained. I'll get to that a little more later, but I don't think you need to read a whole lot before this omnibus to enjoy it, and it does, like I said, feel fairly self-contained or one and done. There are some loose plot threads from Nick Spencer that pick up here, or at least references to what happened in Nick Spencer, and then it does kind of pave the way for what will come next under the Zeb Wells run of Amazing Spider-Man, but there is something in the nature of the structure here that does feel very self-contained, and I think that that is actually a huge selling point for this omnibus, and I wanted to say that early for people that are on the fence about this, or maybe don't want to do the homework and read everything leading into this to enjoy this book. Another thing I'll say right at the outset is that this is a Ben Reilly Spider-Man book. Now, do we still have a ton of Peter Parker in the pages of this Amazing Spider-Man omnibus? Yes, absolutely. He is a presence throughout this whole run. You get to see him more in the beginning and end of this collection, but Ben Reilly really takes the reins as the main Spider-Man throughout a majority of this book. We do have a lot of supporting casts of characters, heroes and villains. Some of my notable inclusions here are like Mary Jane Watson, Aunt May, we have Black Cat showing up. Those were all really fun characters throughout this book, in my opinion. But yes, Ben Reilly really takes center stage. And for those that don't know, Ben Reilly is the clone of Peter Parker. He's the clone Spider-Man. They first created this character sort of technically in the 70s, but really he kind of came to prominence and was given the name Ben Reilly and given all of his kind of backstory in the 90s during the infamous Clone Saga. They released that run in 2 omnibuses, or technically 4 if you also have the 2 volumes of the Ben Reilly era. But yeah, really fun stuff. Marvel actually just reprinted that whole run from the 90s. Really, really fun from what I've read of that thus far. And of course, Ben Reilly has had more history than just that, but that's really his claim to fame, is that 90s era. He was known as the Scarlet Spider for some time. Anyway, he's been around for a bit, but this is, again, when he jumps back into the reins as the proper Spider-Man. And that actually happens in this first issue, in issue 75. Essentially, Ben Reilly, Spider-Man, and Peter Parker, also Spider-Man, team up to take down this league of bad guys. They have a lot of radiation-based powers, and in this fight, this scramble, the two Spider-Mans battle these villainous foes, and ultimately Peter Parker is injured pretty grievously by these radioactive supervillains, so much so that he lands in a coma and is barely clinging to life. We have people like Mary Jane Watson and Aunt May kind of at his bedside trying to help, but he's comatose for the early part of this run for a couple issues, and we have Ben Reilly just taking over completely as the main Spider-Man. But a new wrinkle for Ben Reilly that is, again, a huge focal point for this whole collection and run is that Ben Reilly is actually a corporately sponsored Spider-Man and superhero, and he is sort of the flagship sponsored hero under the Beyond Corporation. Now, this corporation is initially not seen to be as malevolent as it truly is. At first, we just think it's like a tech company that is sponsoring Spider-Man, but we find out there's a lot more going on at this company. We find out that Ben Reilly is given kind of psychological treatments, and they've done things with his memories, and they're testing and tweaking his body, and he has to report in and kind of live in the facility, and he's on a very short leash. He's reunited with one of his paramours, kind of his love interest, Janine. I don't believe I've seen a lot of her backstory, however, and I don't know that you need it to enjoy this collection. They reference previous events, but basically she gets sprung from, I believe, prison, and the two kind of reunite, but she also is kind of landlocked in this tower for the Beyond Corporation where she has to reside. And he basically goes off and does missions for the Beyond Corporation, and he still gets to be everyone's friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but a lot of his missions are more targeted. He has kind of a tech guy, kind of his Houston, like that he can have a comm kind of communication link with during his missions. He has some extra new technology and things that he gets to work out. But that is really the setup for this run. Basically, you have Ben Reilly corporately sponsored by the Beyond Corporation. They're messing with him a bit, but still he gets to be the hero, and for a lot of this book, the main Spider-Man, while Peter Parker is first in a comatose and then eventually slowly recovering. In the early run, Ben Reilly is everything I want him to be. He's a hero in his own right, while still also really feeling like our favorite Peter Parker. We obviously have enough differences with him being kind of a clone and battling with his own insecurities or identity politics around what that means. He has his own love interest and own life, completely independent of Peter Parker, but we also see him beholden to the whims of this company, and every so often he chafes under that leash a bit. Sometimes he tries to circumvent them a little bit or take liberties when he maybe shouldn't be based on what the company is telling him, but for all intents and purposes, he does fall in line and succeed in these missions, and in many of these cases, he gets to be the hero and still save people. So there's not a lot of tension initially in this run, but things begin to fray as we get more and more through this book. His relationship with Janine is actually a really bright spot and pretty beautiful throughout. I love to see Ben happy. She seems like a wonderful woman, and their relationship is one that is portrayed quite well, I thought. We also have that tech guy, Marcus, kind of playing a role as well. He seems to be a genuinely good friend to Ben Reilly. That was a character I really liked. His psychiatrist is also an interesting character. As we go through the Omnibus 2, we have him struggling with his memories and what's really his and what's counterfeit and what still makes him who he is. And we have him tangling with a lot of villains. Like, most notably, we have characters like Kraven the Hunter. That arc was super fascinating. We have Morbius show up, maybe or maybe not the Lizard in some form, and many others. We also have some interesting allies that I'd like to point out, like Misty Knight and Colleen Wing. For me, they're most notable from the kind of Iron Fist franchise, or maybe even Luke Cage, but they kind of get caught up in the Beyond Corporation. We also have Captain Marvel, or I'm not actually sure she goes by Captain Marvel, but we have Monica Rambeau at one point in this book. So we have a lot of fun kind of Marvel hero allies as well. We have Miles Morales show up for an issue when the Beyond Corporation is trying to sue him for the name Spider-Man, which I thought was really funny. We have him and Ben Reilly being a little bit antagonistic as, Miles realizes it's not Peter Parker, but ultimately they kind of team up. That's a fun issue, and I got to read that for the first time in the Saladin Ahmed Miles Morales Spider-Man Omnibus, which I also enjoyed, just by the way. I reviewed that once upon a time. But yeah, we have a lot of Spider-Man's kind of allies and things in this book, which I like to see. In the background, though, we have Peter Parker as well. We have him, again, in a coma for a lot of the early run until we actually get to an issue all involving Aunt May, kind of getting across to Doc Ock, trying to get her to help him get more data or possibly a cure for Peter. This brings up a lot of fun little Easter eggs from a previous storyline where it looked like Aunt May was engaged to Doc Ock. That's a much older issue, but they kind of play on it tongue-in-cheekily in this issue, which I really love to see. But essentially, Doc Ock and Aunt May break into kind of a prison facility, and Aunt May is able to interrogate the person that injured Peter and is able to get some of her like blood sampling or gene sampling or whatever to try to synthesize some kind of treatment for Peter Parker. We have Doc Ock kind of going off the deep end a bit as he examines Beyond and sees how they kind of stolen some of his intellectual property and kind of taken over parts of his company and used it for their own ends. That was a really fascinating issue and honestly kind of a turning point, if I can say so. And basically Aunt May and Doc Ock are able to use this to kind of help revive Peter. He comes out of his coma, but he's still very weak and dealing with a lot of internal struggles as well. He's having a lot of creepy nightmares and his powers aren't working like they should. And again, he's feeling very weak. And we have a whole subplot with him after he is revived, where basically Black Cat, Felicia Hardy, and Captain America tried to give him training or lessons to be Spider-Man again and to hone his strength because he's just really weak and not himself and not up to full strength. And those issues were really fun because we get to see Peter's grit outside of just his power set, which I loved. We also got a brief return to kind of an amazing Bagman reference, if you know what that is, where Peter Parker has kind of a sandwich bag over his head in lieu of a mask. Loved that little homage. Thought that was really a fun moment. But yeah, that's all going on. And in the main story, we have Ben Reilly still playing Spider-Man. But after Doc Ock has his own revelations about the Beyond Corporation, it does lead to him trying to break into Beyond offices, and then that leads to a direct confrontation with Ben Reilly's Spider-Man. They have a skirmish on the rooftops, which was a really fun issue, but it leads to a moment where Doc Ock basically gives kind of a flash drive or some kind of memory device that has information about what he uncovered on Beyond, which was basically that they were manipulating Ben Reilly, and his whole hero program was kind of a sham, and that they might be messing his memories up or stealing things from him. And this just is enough to sow doubt for Ben Reilly. He shares it discreetly with Janine, and from here on, Ben Reilly begins to really turn away from the company. After this point, things begin to unravel for most of our characters pretty precipitously. Essentially, Ben Reilly gets more of his memories kind of taken, and he starts to see people as kind of faceless beings, and he realizes that he's starting to lose his footing on who he is in some of his memories. We kind of have this point where he basically has all the power, but he doesn't remember what it is to be responsible. And so we have this kind of voided out Spider-Man who has incomplete ideas of identity and value systems, and what do you do when you have all the powers of Spider-Man but you don't have the memory of everything Aunt May and Ben Parker tried to instill in you and all the sense of personal responsibility and moralism? Well, we get Ben Reilly really starting to just lose it a little bit. As this is happening, Peter Parker is back to essentially full strength, and they try to take on the Beyond Corporation. I'm leaving out some details here and there, but it leads to a stunning climax for this collection where basically Ben Reilly, Peter Parker, the two Spider-Men, infiltrate Beyond. They find all sorts of horrifying experiments, a kind of lizard Morbius hybrid creature that they have to fight. We have Colleen Wing and Misty Knight and all of them also trying to stop Beyond's kind of plotting here. There's so many other characters and subplots happening at this point, but it ultimately leads to a final confrontation where basically Ben has completely unraveled and he has a memory device that he says he wants to siphon some of Peter's memories so he can get them back, and he's starting to believe that Peter stole them. Peter refuses to let them continue to mess with either of their minds. Ben starts to fight him for the memories, saying, "I didn't ask permission," and ultimately it leads to Peter achieving a victory, and Ben falls into a vat of kind of psychoactive, radioactive goo, and all of Beyond, the main headquarters, kind of explodes or implodes and kind of collapses, and we basically have Peter walking away, Janine going into the wreckage, finding Ben, who's been mutated by this goo, along with everything that just happened, and he becomes Chasm. He has some new abilities, and we presume he is completely unstable, and that's where this omnibus leaves us. Honestly, there's so much more going on here. We have, Ben Reilly's psychiatrist character, character being imbued with the sins of Norman Osborn and becoming Queen Goblin. That was another good feature. We have the Mary Jane and Black Cat series where they basically are trying to defend Spider-Man's kind of weakened or comatose body. We have all those Beyond issues, or the Bay issues I mentioned earlier in the video, which are kind of these longer side issues that are spliced between adjacent issues. So, you have like issue 78 and then 78 Bay. A lot of these Bay issues, which stand for Beyond, of course, go into further details with some of the supporting cast of characters for Spider-Man. Those issues were all really fun. I love that we had those included in the main run of Amazing Spider-Man issues, and everything filled out this world quite nicely. But yeah, that's ultimately where you land the plane. As you can hear by this last little bit, there are so many points and issues that I left out of this review just because I could talk about this for a long time. But that really is the gist of the plotline for The Amazing Spider-Man Beyond. At the back of the omnibus, as you just saw as well, we had an extensive gallery of cover arts and variant covers. That is really the extent of the extras, but I'm happy to say we had a ton of those variant covers and full page artwork. We have a couple thumbnails at the very end, so I was really happy to see that huge cover art gallery. Would have loved to see some more extras, but I understand and I'm happy with the extras we got. Across this collection, of course, we also had some gorgeous artwork from some of the Spider-Man greats. I love that we got some from Sarah Pichelli and Mark Bagley in particular, but so many great artists in this collection. I thought the art was consistently strong even as we changed hands. The writers also did a great job, and overall, that really is the Spider-Man Beyond Omnibus. And now the grade. For this fun interlude in the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, filled to the brim with great comic book writers and artists, the Comic Book Report is happy to give the Amazing Spider-Man Beyond Omnibus a B. This is a really above average read that I think more people need to talk about. If you're a big Amazing Spider-Man fan, or if you're a Ben Reilly fan, I think that this is a must-read chapter in these characters' histories. The art throughout was stunning. I love their choice of characters, both primary, villainous characters, secondary supporting characters. It was just a ton of fun. I like that this book also feels relatively self-contained, and that you don't need to read a ton before you pick it up. I was fascinated to see that this was not reviewed often, at least in my research, and I couldn't wait to provide my own review. As a fan of Ben Reilly's Spider-Man, I can't say I agree with every single creative decision that was made for his character in this run, and yet I can say that almost every issue in this omnibus was thoroughly entertaining for me. It was a page-turner that I deeply enjoyed reading, and I assume I will go and return to once again someday. A very, very fun modern Spider-Man run. But that's just my opinion. I would love to hear yours. Did you read The Amazing Spider-Man Beyond? What did you think of this whole run? Do you like Ben Reilly? Do you agree with what Marvel has done with him in recent years? I'd love to hear all of that in the comments section. I'd also love to hear what are some of your favorite Spider-Man comics series or runs. Let me know all about it again in that comments section. And thank you so much for everyone who's taken the ride with me again today. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like, that comment we just discussed, and maybe share this video with a friend. Thanks everyone. Bye.